Hi guys, welcome to the Rain Trade channel, it's Ben. Today I got second place at the Berlin Regional. We had 259 players, I believe. We played 9 rounds of Swiss. I went 8-1 and I played Sky Striker Orcust. Just right out of the ban list we got Hard Power to 3 and Engage to 3. So I figured I'd give it a try and I had decent experiences testing it. So I thought I'd just bring it to the tournament and it went extremely well. Yeah, let's just get right into the deck profile. Orcust lineup is rather standard. 3 Girsu, card we didn't have back then, but it's obviously super good. 3 Hard Power. The thing about Girsu is also that now on your opponent's turn, Hard Power can not only summon any Orcust name, but also Foolish it, because you can just summon Girsu on opponent's turn and Foolish whatever you need. I played 2 Nightmare and 2 Skeleton. Theoretically, these 2 are bricks that could be played at 1 if you were never drawing them or never banishing them or whatever. So I'm pretty sure the safest way is just to play 2 and 2. Yeah, but they're not great cards to draw. Nightmare is a decent discard, I guess. And then I played the one World Wand. Yeah, it's a brick. Have to play it. Drew it a couple times today, sadly. So yeah, that's Orcust lineup. Then I played 1 Armageddon and 1 Greffer. I didn't play the second Armageddon because it's just too many normal summons. And I figured I'd want 1 and 1 as a target for Rhoda, and yeah, so I could choose between the two because Greffer plays through hand traps better in some spots where you have an Orcust piece in your hand, so you can pitch it for cost. And I played 1 Gizmek, yeah, 2019 style. I think it makes OTKs way easier. Sometimes you can like make more stuff with IP if you have it. I don't think it's really needed, but yeah, makes OTKing easier. And then for the Sky Striker engine, which I think makes the deck pretty insane, it's 3 Engage, 1 Drones, 1 Anchor, 1 Short Cannon. Rather standard lineup, of course, but I figured I'd still want the versatility of 1 Anchor, 1 Short Cannon over to Widow Anchor. Yeah, 3 Engage is just completely insane, and you're gonna see why in a bit, because in this deck you're always resolving it for draw, so it's always a +1. Yeah, and then power spells, 1 Foolish, 1 Rhoda, 1 Cold Die, and yeah, I guess I play 1 Talons, just because it's a going second card, but it's also live going first. My issue with Talons was just that I didn't want to play too many of them going first, because my board is actually not very strong, so I rely on non-engine on top of it. Because I draw through so much of my deck, I think it's very realistic to see multiple non-engine, in addition to my IP Dingirsu play. But Talons is a card, if my opponent doesn't interact with me, it doesn't actually provide anything for my board. But I still needed to play the 1 because I'm siding Thrust, so I definitely wanted it as a target. And it's generic enough to play in the main deck, I mean. Yeah, for non-engine, so to speak, 3 Droplet, 2 Chalice, it's extremely low count of non-engine. The good thing is that the Striker cards kind of work as non-engine as well, because they break boards, they also pose interruptions going first. But I think Droplet is just the best one synergy-wise with your Orcust cards, and it also hits a lot of the meta right now. It's okay against Snake Eyes, and it's very good against Voiceless, which is a problem for the Striker cards, of course, because you can't bait the Voiceless card with Chalice and Droplet that well. So yeah, only spells as non-engine, of course, to maximize draw power. I think in this deck you don't really need hand traps. There's the Omega combo in Snake Eyes, yes, so there's reason to play hand traps, definitely. But I think the board is still breakable if you open a very good engine hand and 4 cards. Yeah, then the 1 Bobble. I didn't play Crescendo. I don't think it's needed, it's just too bad going second. I think the game has evolved too far, so I don't think we can play these kind of counter traps if we don't need to. And being able to set up this as an interruption most of the time is just good enough. So I would barely go for Crescendo over Bobble, so like it only really comes up if you have both, or you need it like turn 3, 4, whatever. So I think just having the Bauble is fine. Just sucks. It got Dryshard banished 1 or 2 times, and like Fenrir banish sucks on it, but it's okay. Then yeah, that is I think 30 cards, and the rest of my deck is just draw cards. 3 return, another target for Galatea. Obviously super insane, synergies with the Orcust. The thing about this one is it's conditional, you have to open an Orcust card. So you have to play a certain count of Orcust monsters to make it live, but I think it works well in this deck. And it's also a spell for Engage that gets you 2 cards and possibly gets you an extender in the grave, so it's just a +1 oftentimes. 3 Allure, basically same thing, just slightly worse. It basically filters your hand from monsters and gets you to your power spells. And then 3 Upstart, thanks to the ban list, and 1 Into the Void. I guess this one is like the most extreme one. I don't think most people will play it, but I figured as long as I'm drawing through my deck and getting spells, it doesn't really matter. Since all my non-engine is settable anyways, it doesn't matter if I discard in the end phase because I just set all my hand. And even if I have like Orcust pieces in my hand, they're just as good in the grave usually. I think the only downside would be if you open an additional normal summon to your play. So yeah, that's 10 draw cards, so you're basically playing a 30 card deck, which also increases your chance to see the non-engine cards or your side deck by a lot, and yeah, your Engage X is also much better this way. Side deck. So side deck, I played the one Afterburner as an additional engage target. I think going second it can be very useful. It's a 1 for 2 oftentimes, and it outs spell traps. I play 2 Magical Spring. This card is completely insane in this deck. It draws cards and it discards cards, and it puts a spell in grave. Like there's no words for how broken this is. Sadly, I couldn't fit the third, because you also want the flexibility in the side deck. You want cards that you can draw into, and not only like cards that draw, because I was only already running 10 draw cards. I don't think more draw cards enhance my odds by a lot. But if I could, I would fit the third, of course. But yeah, I also had to compromise on this one, only 2 thrust. This accesses both of the engines, and Engage or Foolish. And it's almost always live if you start playing into their board. So, but I only purely sided going second, because I didn't want to run more normal traps to side for going first. I don't think it's reliable enough, because it's also, if you run it going first, it's also a non-engine that doesn't add anything to your end board unless your opponent interacts, and my end board is by far not an FTK. 1 Herald of the Abyss, thrust target for Curly or Tower stacks. 1 Change of Heart. It's very strong into Snake Eye right now without the Omni Negates, and it's also a target for thrust, if you don't want to Talons, I guess. Feather Duster, I don't think you have to say anything about that. It's also a thrust target. 1 Evenly, same thing. Very strong against Kashtira. And a few other decks. It's actually not bad versus Snake Eyes as well right now, because of the Omni Negates that are gone. And then the rest of my side deck is Floodgates. It's 3 Grave of the Super Ancient Organism. This card is a Floodgate against Kashtira, and also against Voiceless, and also against Branded mainly. My Branded matchup is absolutely terrible, because I'm not running any hand traps. So I decided that this would be the card, because you can side it going first and second, and unless they have some kind of back removal, you just win. Because they would usually, if they play against you, most people just autopilot Puppet Lock. So they probably won't have Chimera set up as well. So you just set this, flip it, and they need some kind of back removal, which is very unlikely that they would have going first against a deck what they believe to be a combo deck. And then 3 Mistaken Arrest. This card was the absolute MVP today. Every time you flip it going first, you win. Against any deck that doesn't lose to back row removal, there's almost no deck that can play very well under this. So this paired with like any interruption usually ensures you survive. And because your grind game is so good, if you stop them from completely exploding during turn 2, you will often win turn 3 on the crackback. Then for extra deck, just one Kagari, no Shizuku. I don't think in this meta, if you go Shizuku pass because you bricked, you have a very high chance of winning, and the spots are just too tight. 2 Galatea, could be 3, but we decided to cut the third. Ka told me it's not necessary, and today it worked out fine. I think I missed the third one once when Kashira Unicorn banished my second for turn 3, but it was alright. Then 1 Longirsu, I was almost not playing it, and I don't think it's very important, but sometimes it's nice to have an additional removal that also doesn't target, especially against Voiceless Voice. And then 2 Dengirsu, standard, I mean, just best card in the extra deck probably. Then the 1 IP, always the end board. It's basically IP turbo with, like, every time my end board should be IP with Dengirsu and Skeleton of some, like, in some shape or form in the grave. And then IP targets, SP, Azalea, Unicorn. I think SP is self-explanatory. There could also be an argument to be made that you should run 2 of this. Unicorn is mainly for access code climb, have an additional removal, especially under Magical Spring, where you can't destroy their back row. And then Azalea is very good because it theoretically removes 2 cards from the field, and it almost never sends itself in this deck. It's also an additional link 2 you can make from SP. And most people don't expect it, they just forget the card exists. And what's most important basically is you can make it with Girsu tokens, because ever since Link 3 was banned, there's not really much you can do with the Girsu token except like Unicorn IP, because Galatea requires effect monsters. And then I played 1 Dark and 1 Barricade Borg as generic Link 2s. Dark just to Link Climb, and Barricade Borg is to unbrick if you open like some, like, basically it's mainly for Nightmare if you have Hornet Drones access. So you just go Hornet Drones, Kagari at back Hornet Drones, Link to Barricade Borg, discard the Nightmare, and then you can play. And then, yeah, 1 access code and 1 Zerabaris. I don't think I summoned Zerabaris at all today, but theoretically, it can come up that you feel like your 1 Dengirsu Sand or your 1 SP interruption won't do enough, and then you just let them commit. And at some point when they feel like, okay, this IP isn't threatening me anymore because they have too many resources, you can summon the Zerabaris and then trigger it with like Harp or something. Especially, it's gotten even better with Girsu, because you can go Harp summon Girsu to the zone, and then it will be chaining 1 Zerabaris, chaining 2 Girsu, and you won't actually lose a lot of advantage, because the monster you summon off of Harp still gets your resource in that case. And then the last card is Typhoon. It's good that it's dark, so you can make it under your Orcust locks. Yeah, I had a lot of fun today. Played various different matchups, a few Tenpai, no branded or voiceless. I have to also say I got kind of lucky sometimes, and I don't think this deck is a tier 1 contender for sure, but I do think it's very underrated. I think it should be more explored after the ban list. I think people underestimate what the 2nd and 3rd Harp Horror and the 3rd Engage does for the deck. Together with the ban of Omni Negates, we can run a completely different strategy than pre-ban list. And it's, yeah, it was just very fun and very good for me today. Shoutouts. Shoutouts to Raid and Trade for sure for sponsoring me. And the team for testing with me. Shout out especially to Ka for letting me stay with him and helping me deck build this deck this morning to like the list that you see here. Yeah, shout outs to Johannes Bauer for always making sure that I don't go to regionals with stupid ideas, and yeah, still believing in those that are a little bit less stupid. And shoutouts to everyone here that believed in me and was rooting for me. It was very fun. Alright, so go follow our Raid and Trade socials, check out our Twitter, check out my Twitter. Yeah, and see you next time on the Raid and Trade channel.